Hello, Mr. Jones. Welcome to our program.
Mr. Jones, huh? That's pretty formal. I haven't been called Mr. Jones in a long time.
Would you prefer that I call you Stradler?
Yeah, that'd go over a little better.
All right, Stradler. I have some pertinent questions as to your career. I hope you'll be...
Yeah, I'm always glad to, give my insights to the world of the media, I guess, as you will.
Okay, so what were some of the bands you were in before Quiet Rylick?
Before Quiet Rylick, well, I'd have to say the first band I started out with was Eileen's Doctors, and they were a pretty rowdy group. It was actually a jazz band, and I played with them for quite some time. But things just kind of fell through, and I joined up with the secondary force, and they were dynamic. I mean, that group, we played, and it was a great group. But one of our members sadly, had to have surgery, and I won't go into too much of the details. But we're down to 3. I hope you feel better, Jen. Yeah, so that's kind of where I ended up in Quiet Rylick.
Okay, thanks. And what made you just decide to be a musician?
There were a lot of factors, but if I had to pinpoint one part of my life, I'd have to go back to, I think it was my junior year of high school.
Really?
And I was taking this music appreciation class with Mr. Holland was his name, and Mr. Holland, he was a really excellent teacher, but I was a bit of a goof off, I'm a bit of a know-it-all, and one day I got in a bit of a ruckus with a student in the class, and he required me to write this huge paper because, I was a know-it-all and thought I knew everything about music, and, he asked me to do some research that Saturday, and what ended up happening was the research was actually it was an old student of his, had died in Vietnam, and so I guess it was just really traumatic to me. I'm trying to think of the student's name. I believe it was Lewis Russ, and African-American boy, really nice, from what I had remembered. I was only a freshman when he was a senior, but he was killed over in the war, and it was just really a difficult moment for my teacher, and it wasn't what I was expecting. And he told me that Lewis, didn't have the talent that I had and the capabilities that I had, and he just always came to school and worked hard, and was able to accomplish great things from that. And to see somebody that had that kind of effort, and they were dead, and had died in the war, and here I was just not even trying, kind of skating through, using drugs. It was kind of a turning point in my life, and it really made me want to become a better person, and I'm forever indebted to Mr. Holland because of that.
Sounds like a wonderful man. Was Mr. Holland the most influential person in your music career?
I'd have to say, yeah. He was just passionate about what he did. He was just always on fire in the class, and he always gave each student just exactly what they needed. I needed that kick in the butt, and and other students, they weren't that way. They needed just encouragement and things, and he always just had that jive. I mean, he just had the it factor as a teacher.
Sounds like a gifted teacher.
Yeah, yes, he was a gifted man.
Well, let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to go out and have a smoke. I was having a severe nicotine fit.
You feeling better now?
Yes.
All right. So my next question for you is, where do you think you might be if Mr. Holland had not helped you out?
Oh man, probably working at Rainy Day Records, you know, high all the time, probably. That's where I'd probably see myself. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's scary to think where I might be. You know, he was an influential person in my life. You know, probably like I said earlier, the most influential. So, you know, I'm scared to think where I would be without him.
Sounds like a wonderful man. What do you plan to do after your musical career?
You know, I guess I'd have to say probably, you know, maybe go back, follow Mr. Holland's footsteps, you know. You know, it wasn't a secret around the school that Mr. Holland, he loved composing music, and when he first started, that was what he was passionate about. He really was using teaching as a means to get his career started, but he became very passionate about teaching and just fell in love with it. And you know, it would be nice to kind of go back and give back to the, you know, what he gave me. You know, he was such a great man in the fact that he just, you know, gave everything to his students. You know, he just did not let up, and you know, to go back and give back from what I've received from such a great teacher would be, you know, I think the right thing to do. It's time for me to kind of feed back and help some other students to get inspired as well, you know, because you're not always going to be up on the limelight as far as a musician goes. I mean, I've got to enjoy the ride now, but it's not always going to be that way.
My last question for you is, what might you take away from your experiences with Mr. Holland that would be helpful in teaching your students?
Wow, that's a really good question. You know, I'd have to say, I don't know, he always seemed to, you know, that each student, I guess, is different. He always seemed to connect with each student on a different level and give them what they needed. Almost kind of like plants in a sense, you know. Each plant's a little different when you're watering them and things of that nature. Students, you know, they need different things. I needed a swift kick in the butt, and you know, he gave it to me, Mr. Holland. You know, he kind of gave me one of those.
A wake-up call.
Yeah, I don't know, like a paradigm shift in a sense. It's one of those things that just, it changed my life. And, you know, for other students, they just needed extra time and, you know, working with them and collaborating, or some encouragement, or finding a connection with the students. But, you know, he always kind of differentiated how he was teaching to those students, and it was just it was a remarkable thing to watch, really.
I'm sure.
He was an excellent teacher.
Well, this is quite an inspiring story, Stradler.
Yeah, I guess also, you know, can I elaborate some more on that last question?
Go for it.
Yeah, you know, he really put in the time. I remember that. You know, I remember there were a couple nights I was going to a gig with over at my buddy's house in the garage, and I'd go by the school at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and sorry about that, I'm a bit of a klutz. I tripped over your cord to your camera. Where were we? Oh yeah. Something about
What might you take?
Oh yeah, putting in the time. That's right. I was talking about that. You know, like I said earlier, you know, I was going to a gig one time, you know, in my friend's garage. We were practicing, and you know, I went by probably at 9, 10 at night, and Mr. Holland was still there. You know, just working away. Only light on in the whole school, you know. He always put in the time, and you know, that's what it takes, I think, to be a good teacher. Is you know, it's not a, you know, you're the last one there and first one out the door kind of job. You know, you want that, go work at McDonald's or something. But you know, I think also, you know, he just was so passionate about it. You know, he brought his A game every day. You know, it's a lot like, you know, music in a sense, you know, that way. You know, when you perform in front of a crowd, you know, you've got to be passionate about it. And, you know, he also made really good connections with his students and got them involved and related to them. And, you know, that's the same way it is in music. There's a lot of similarities there, come to think of it now, you know. You know, you got 60,000 screaming people, you know, that are just, you know, you've got to get them involved in what you're doing. And it's the same way in a classroom, you know, 30 students, you know, you can't have one of them back in the room, you know, picking his nose or, you know, not paying attention to what's going on. And, you know, you've got to get them all excited and make connections that way. And, you know, Holland, he was an expert at that, you know, and I think about that sometimes when I'm up on stage, you know, wow, you know, he just worked the crowd. He really was, he was amazing that way. And, you know, I would say those are the things that I would really, you know, really want to aspire to be, you know, treating each student differently, put in the hours, and, you know, just working the crowd, and, you know, relating to the students and being passionate about what I teach.
Well, this is quite an inspirational interview, Stradler.
Well,
and we wish you well in your future endeavors. And
oh, my future's looking bright.
Oh,
my future's looking real bright.
Well, thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you again, hopefully, in the near future.
Thank you for your time. And to all my fans, peace out.